Hi and welcome to a new Magic video. So today is going to be a bit different and a bit special too, because yesterday I won a 63 players RCQ. And now I just want to share with you what I think of the deck I played, which is Rakdos camp, and also share with you my sideboard guide that I use for the event. It's something that I tuned in, as you saw in the last videos in the last weeks. I think it's time for me to share with you all the info I gathered. First of all, the decks I played against were two Bring to Light. One was the Scape Shift version and the other was the classic Omnath Ring deck. And overall, I think that this deck can get ahead in the early turns and win pretty easily overall, but you need to bring in the Turaks, the Blood Moons, otherwise you could have some trouble managing all the value that they could get. They have Up the Beanstalk, which is super scary, but overall not a bad matchup, I think, and I won against both of these decks. Then I faced two Amulet Titans, which right now are kinda scary. I don't think that this deck is particularly suited to face Titan. I mean, not having Blood Moon main deck surely doesn't help. Orcish Bowmaster is not super strong against them, and playing a lot of discard spell could be good, but then they're just in top deck mode with a lot of mana and a lot of lands already into play, which is not great for us because they could just win by top decking a Titan or a Colossus and that's it. But Doughty Voidwalker made an awesome job getting in place some Titans, getting me some value, some trampling creatures. So I managed to defeat one of those two. The other was my only loss during the event. So overall, I'm still scared of Titan, and I think I'm going to try the third Blood Moon in my sideboard, probably cutting a Sheoldred, but not because Sheoldred is bad, I don't think that at all, but I think that in my meta, in my local meta, there are too many Titans and Sheoldred is a bit worse. I didn't face any coffers or anything too focused on drawing a lot of cards aside from the Omnath decks. Obviously, Sheoldred there is good. Then I faced Jeskai Breach, the combo version with Rona, and playing 4 Doties and 2 unlicensed thirsts, all that stuff is just pretty much game over already. I don't think that that matchup is any difficult, to be honest. We have a lot of great tools to deal with the early game. We have Bolt for Rona, for Ragavan, for Emry, and then we have Doty, we have discard spells, so we are fine. So Jeskai Breach is not too scary. I think we are well equipped to just deal with all these combo based graveyard decks. And my last matchup in the Swiss round was Murktide, another matchup where it's kind of 50-50, or I mean it was 50-50 before getting Orcish Bowmasters. Now I think that we are kinda ahead. Another matchup where I think that this deck can be great and win the game fast enough to not even have to deal with a Murktide. In my top 8, I had to play against Burn. Burn is a pretty cool matchup, I think, because there are a lot of decisions to make, a lot of layers in the matchup itself. I think that my opponent did an amazing job to change completely their playstyle. They played a lot of removals post-side, Path to Exile, they had the Sanctifiers, they played a lot around my explosives, but in the end, I managed to deal with all the Sanctifiers, but it was a really close game, and I think that Burn is an amazing choice in this meta, so watch out for that deck in particular. Then I played against Zoo. As a player, I'm kinda scared of Zoo, is like my counter deck for some reason, but this deck is well suited to defeat Zoo. We have Blood Moon, we have plenty of removal spells, and we can kinda handle all the removals post side. So this is another matchup where this deck can do particularly well. So I don't think you should be too scared of Zoo. And then my last matchup in the finals was Goryo's Vengeance, the version with Emrakul, Urza Saga, and the Cremator. But I think there is no chance that this deck can lose to something like that. We have Voidwalkers, we have Thoughtseize, we have Grief in the main board, and then we have also Unlicensed Thirst, Blood Moon, Idetsugu, Colligan, Cast into the Fire, Explosives. We have so much stuff. I just sided in 9 cards and it was amazing. I mean, and I think I was really lucky to face a deck like that in the finals overall. I'm quite sure that people should give this deck a bit more credit. There are a lot of choices that you must take during the game that could change the results of the match itself. So even if it doesn't seem so, trust me, it's not that easy as a deck. Obviously, we are not talking about Yawgmoth or any strange combo deck, but still this is a mid-range deck, so you need to focus on being the aggro deck, but also being the control deck, playing around your removals. Don't get caught by enemy counterspell or Veil of Summers or any kind of interaction, because at the end of the day, even if you go Grief turn 1, which is an amazing start, then you probably are going to play with just 2 or 3 cards, and you need to play those resources at the best of their potential, otherwise you might just lose. And now I want to share with you my sideboard guide for this deck. So here it is. I think that the deck list right now seems pretty good. The only change I would make, as I said, is 1 Shieldred for 1 more Blood Moon, but this is up to you and up to your local meta. You could also probably cut 1 K command for another Blood Moon for the same reason, but I personally like K command because it's a pretty good tool against artifact decks, but also in slower matchups overall. And for the sideboard plan, in the It's the Murktide matchup, we are cutting 2 Doughty Voidwalkers for 2 Unlicensed Earths. Murktide is just full of removals, so playing Doughty doesn't really do much. So Unlicensed Earths comes in as our graveyard 8 effect of choice. We don't really have that much to bring in anyway. We could side in the Shieldred. They are not too bad. They must be in Delirium to deal with them. So Shieldred is an option, and you could just cut Ragavans on the draw maybe just to play around them, having Shredder on turn 2 and being able to deal with the Ragavan and side in Shieldred. That's an option. It's completely up to you though. In the mirror match, we are going to have 2 different plans on the play and on the draw. On the play, I want to cut Thoughtseize just to have the Ragavans, which are a bit more aggressive and on the play are kinda hard to deal with. And we bring in 2 Unlicensed Earths, 1 Shieldred and 1 K command. Shieldred here is just an amazing threat because they must have a Terminate to deal with it, or Bolt plus Fury, but those are a lot of cards. K command is just able to deal with the opposing Unlicensed Earths, maybe also getting back one of our creature or discarding the last card our opponent has in hand. And then Unlicensed Earths is just good overall to deal with the Croxas, deal with the Undying effects. But on the draw, we take the control role, so we want to get rid of any Fable, which is super scary in the mirror match. So Thoughtseize stays in. Ragavan is not doing much, also because they have access to Orcish Bowmasters just to deal with our turn 1 Ragavan, which is not great. So Ragavan out and all those cards in. Furtivity is not as popular, but I still want to include it in the sideboard. We cut all the single target removal. We cut 2 Lightning Bolt, 1 Terminate, and 1 Fury to bring in Explosives and Blood Moon. That is just our standard plan. We want to deny mana, and also we want to keep up a removal for the dwarves. So nothing too special here. It's just the standard sideboard plan. Against Omnath, on the play, we are still the aggro deck. So I want to cut 2 Bolt and 2 Doughty to bring in 2 Blood Moons and 2 Turaks. Because on the play, a Ragavan turn 1 might just be able to get into play a Blood Moon by turn 2, which is super great against them. So I think I just want to cut 2 Bolts, which are not able to deal with basically anything, and 2 Voidwalkers, which are just unblockable creatures in this matchup, so nothing too special. But on the draw, we are cutting 2 Ragavans because they are able to play Vren and 6 by turn 2, killing our Ragavan. So I want 2 Shieldred instead, just to be able to deal with Up the Beanstalk or One Ring or Omnath. But I don't want to include it on the play too, because they still have a lot of exciting effects, a lot of removals. So I'm not too sure I want those on the play as well. But on the draw, they are fine instead of the Ragavan. Living End, another free matchup. Sorry, I had to change file because it was the wrong one. And we are cutting 2 bolts, 2 terminates, 2 side in, 2 chalices, 2 earths, and 1 Turak. We can keep 1 terminate instead of the Turak, but I think that having a more proactive creature in deck could help us a lot, so I want the Turak instead of the terminate. But this is a pretty fine matchup. We have Doties, Thoughtseize is also fine, we have a lot of good cards. Don't be scared of just evoke cast a Fury, because it could come back thanks to the opposing Living End, so that's a good plan sometimes. And don't forget to leave a Doty untapped, because that way if they cast Living End you just sacrifice it, get it back with the Living End and exile Living End, and you can cast Living End again and basically deny one of their Living Ends. Against Rhinos things are a bit scarier because we don't really have that many good cards in the main board. We are just cutting Orcish Bowmasters and Bolts because they are useless, and we bring in Chalice, Explosives, Idetsugu, and the mono copy of Shieldred because it's good at dealing with the Rhinos and also at keeping us high on life points. But it's not great because now they are playing Flame of Anor, which is just great at killing the Shieldred. But I think that it's better than Orcish Bowmasters and Bolts, so we bring her in. Against Yawgmoth, we just want to cut Ragavans. They are not going to connect anytime soon. Prox is just too slow. We need something better to win the early game, and we are bringing in K-Command, Unlicensed Thirst to fight their graveyard, and Shieldred, which is great. We could also bring in Cast Into the Fire. I think that that card is pretty good here. We are able to deal with their Mana Dorks and their Cauldron too, but I think that they're probably just going to cut the Mana Dorks, so K-Command is kind of better overall, and this is what I'm siding in. Against Jeskai Breach combo, I just cut the Furies to bring in Blood Moon and Unlicensed Thirst. Not much to say here. I think that Fury is not doing much overall. Any other card is kind of better. So I'm just going to fight their graveyard, fight their Urza Saga with the Blood Moon. We could also just bring in more K-Command, Cast Into the Fire. If they're playing the heavy One Ring version, I think that cutting 2 Undying Effect for Cast Into the Fire and maybe a K-Command is also fine, so keep that in mind. Hammer Time is kind of scary because they're playing Sigardaze, they're playing Sanctifier, and those two together are just too good to beat. So they're also playing Solitude in some versions, so probably I just want to dodge this matchup. But overall we can still play because we are Rakdos Cam, and this deck is kind of good at being at least a 50-50. So we cut 2 Thoughtseize on the play, 4 Doty Voidwalker, it's not doing much here, and 1 Croxa, still for the same reason we need to kind of be faster. And I bring in a lot of 8. We play 2 Blood Moon, 2 Explosives, 1 Idetsugu, 1 Cast, and 1 K-Command from the sideboard, some Construct and Urza Saga 8, and overall we opt for the best. But on the draw, I think that I still want the Thoughtseize here instead of the Blood Moon, because Blood Moon is not that bad against Hammer, but sometimes it's just too slow, so I think that it's worth playing those only on the play, and instead on the draw I kind of want the Thoughtseize to maybe get them off guard and take 1 Sanctifier. Control of any kind, this is the old sideboard guide, but yeah, the idea remains the same. We just want to cut Undying Effects and balls. We want the Blood Moons. We already have the Fable in the deck, so Turak and more Shieldreds are fine. We could also think about bringing in a K-Command to fight their late game, maybe getting a Chalice or getting back one of our cards. Maybe we could use it as a discard spell. So overall the plan is the same. We don't really want Undying Effects against an Exile based deck. They're just playing 2 or maybe 3 Supreme Verdict, so those are not really worth it. Against Tron, we just want to cut single target removals. They're not great. Bring in Blood Moon, Artifactate, so cast into the fire, and K command. And the plane is pretty much the same every single time. We want to deploy Doty, and if we have the chance, it's better to wait on the discard spell after the Doty just to take one Ulamog or Karn and basically win on the spot. So keep that in mind. Discard spell after Doty are kinda stronger against Tron, unless we are in a rush to just deal with their Tron. So if we want to take a map or anything like that. Against Titan, we have a lot of cards that we want to cut. I don't think that Orcish Bowmasters are doing enough. Lightning Bolt is useless. We can cut one Not Dead after all. And one Thoughtseize, I think that Thoughtseize in this matchup is not as good as you might think, because after one or two discard spell, they're not going to have anything aside from lands anyway. So having too many discard spell, I don't think it's the right choice. Instead, I want to play Chalice to stop Summoner Spark, Explosives to deal with Constructs or Amulets, Cast into the Fire and Key Command for the same reason, and Blood Moon to deal with their mana base. Against Burn, cutting all Thoughtseize is the right choice. We don't really have that many options in the sideboard, sadly, so I'm just going to bring in Sheoldred for the late game. If we can survive the early turns and deploy a Sheoldred, we could win in 1 or 2 turns, and Explosives to deal with the Sanctifier. I don't think that K command is doing much because they have a low creature count and we cannot kill the Sanctifier anyway. Ardenet's case is the matchup that you want to avoid. We have so many bad cards in the main board. We have Ragavan, which is never going to connect. We have Orcish Bowmaster, which is not going to kill anything at all if they manage to get 1 or 2 counters on the creatures. So I want more Artifact 8, I want Itsugu, K command, Explosives, Cast into the Fire, and Blood Moon. But this matchup is scary. Is really scary. I don't think that we are in a good spot against Scales. And as my last matchup, I wanted to include Shadow because it's kind of popular right now. And then just cutting Doty on the play to side in Blood Moon, and then cutting Ragavan on the draw to side in still Blood Moon. Ragavan on the draw, as in the mirror match, is not great because they have Orcish Bowmasters, and Doty on the play is just going to die to any Annihilate, Push, Terminate, anything really that they are going to play. But this matchup is not too hard, it's skill based probably, because the Shadow could deal with our Scammed Fury and all those stuff, so focus on the game. For the sideboard guide, that's all. Trust me, this deck is super interesting to play. There are a lot more choices that you can imagine. It's not as brain dead as you might think, so give it a try, play it a couple of times, and if you want to be competitive, this might be the right choice for you. Also, don't forget to check out my older videos. We had some pretty exciting leaks, and that could be a good chance to see the deck in action. But for today, that's all. Hope you enjoyed this kind of video. It might help you with your RCQs or anything like that. I truly hope so. And stay tuned for more. See you in the next one.